The round begins. Your opponent isn't attacking. They are not rushing. They're not even throwing out random moves. They are just being patient, waiting. 5 seconds passed, nothing. Suddenly, you feel uncomfortable. I need to do something, is what your brain says. So you dash forward, counter hit. Next round, the same thing happens again. They are calm. They are restless. You attack again. Whiff punish. You lose another exchange. So now you sit there thinking of why you are so confused. Why does it feel like they are always ready? Because they weren't waiting for an opening. They were waiting for you to just create one. And that's one of the biggest differences between good players and great ones. Great players don't always force mistakes. Sometimes they simply make you so uncomfortable that you are willing to just create your own mistakes. Welcome back to How Winners Think. When people think about pressure in Tekken, they usually imagine relentless offense. Of course, that's what the game's aggressive playstyle is based on. Jabs, frame traps, heat pressure, constant aggression. But some of the strongest pressure that you will ever face looks completely different. It looks like patience. It looks like silence. It looks like someone who's perfectly happy doing just nothing. Today, we are exploring why elite competitors don't always beat you with offense, why silence creates psychological pressure, and how the strongest players quietly encourage their opponents to make the first mistake. Because sometimes the easiest mistake to punish is the one your opponent just tends to create for themselves. Human beings don't like uncertainty. When nothing happens, our brains immediately start searching for something to do. In Tekken, that often means attacking. Imagine standing in neutral, neither player moves. After a few seconds, most players become impatient. They start to think such statements as, I need to start pressure, I can't just stand here, I am losing momentum. But where did that pressure come from? Not your opponent, your own mind. You see, silence doesn't remove pressure, it just transfers it. And the player who handles silence much better usually controls the pacing of the match. One of the biggest traps in competition is believing action always equals progress. Sometimes the desire to attack isn't necessarily based on opportunity, it's based on discomfort. You are tired of waiting, you want certainty, you want momentum, and so thus you create it. The problem is though, in Tekken, your opponent may have been waiting for exactly that moment. They don't need to force you, they simply need to trust that eventually you will force yourself. That's why patient players often seem impossible to read. They are allowing your emotions to make decisions before your mind actually does. Pressure isn't just about offense. Pressure can be created by positioning, such as spacing, movement, timing, even complete stillness. Think about fighting someone who never overextends, never panics, never chases. Every mistake you make feels much bigger. Why, you may ask? Because they're not giving you any easy opportunities in return. Eventually, you will then start trying harder, then harder, until your own impatience becomes the opening that they have been waiting for. Pressure isn't always what your opponent is doing. Sometimes it's actually just what they refuse to do. Many players believe every second must be productive, every interaction must create damage, every opening must be forced. Elite competitors though think differently. Sometimes winning the moment means refusing to play it. You don't always need another attack, another mix-up, another guess. Sometimes the strongest decision is allowing your opponent enough time to become impatient, because impatience is, quite honestly, very predictable. Unpredictable players then become very easy, punishable characters slash players. Here's something fascinating though. You see, when players don't understand what is happening, they invent answers. Such statements come up in their head, such as, they are waiting because they are scared. They are giving me space. I should take control. You see, from those statements, do you understand what is happening? Your opponent hasn't even said anything, but your brain has already thus created a story out of nothing. Elite players understand this. They don't rush to answer every question. Sometimes they let uncertainty just do the work for them, because uncertainty creates pressure. Pressure creates mistakes, and mistakes then thus creates opportunities. The strongest competitors don't always outplay their opponents mechanically. Sometimes they simply allow impatience to appear. Every unnecessary dash, every reckless heat engager, every random launcher often begins with one feeling: I need to make something happen. Great players understand they don't have to create every mistake. Sometimes they simply create an environment where mistakes naturally appear. That's a completely different way of thinking. And once you understand it, you'll stop measuring pressure by how many buttons someone presses. You'll measure it by how uncomfortable they make you feel. For the next rank session that you get into, whenever you gain a small life lead, resist the urge to immediately extend it. Instead, stand your ground, observe, and then ask yourself, can I make my opponent come to me? I want you to watch what happens. You'll be surprised at how many players begin taking risks they never needed to take. Not because you forced them, but because silence did. Tekken isn't won by the player who presses/mashes the most buttons. It's won by the player making the better decisions. Sometimes that means attacking. Sometimes that means defending. And sometimes it means doing absolutely nothing. Because every match has a rhythm. The strongest competitors don't rush to control it. They become comfortable enough to just let it unfold. Then, when the moment finally arrives, they are ready. Not because they forced it, but because they recognized it. If you remember one thing from this video, I want you to remember this. Don't create every mistake. Give your opponent room to create their own. The next time you feel the urge to attack, pause for just a moment and then ask yourself, am I attacking because the opportunity is there, or because I'm uncomfortable waiting? Because those are two very different reasons. One creates pressure, the other creates openings. This has been how winners think. Until next time, the strongest competitors don't always win by pressing more buttons. Sometimes they win, quite honestly, by pressing fewer and just thinking more. Think first.